Hey guys, JJJBoxing. So there was a recent interview with Keith Thurman, and even before the Keith Thurman interview that just came out recently on Fight Hub, there was an interview with Oscar De La Hoya, who said that a couple weeks back that Canelo can be outboxed, and I've said this many times before. If Canelo doesn't hurt you and he doesn't drop you, then he's probably going to lose a lot of rounds against you, to be honest. If you're boxing well and Canelo's not touching you with hard shots, you're probably winning rounds. And De La Hoya said this it's like he moves like he's in quicksand. He has slow feet. And I've always said this, Canelo's upper body movement, his hand speed is incredible. The bobbing and weaving is just the way his hips move, and he it's all very, very fast, very explosive upper body movement. But when it comes to his lower body movement, he's actually not that good. He's kind of slow. He's nowhere near obviously he's nowhere near a Manny Pacquiao or Lomachenko footwork, but he's not even, I don't even think his footwork is as good as like a Charlo coming up. Charlo's got better footwork than him. I just think that's his one weakness, is his slow feet. Like, not to say he doesn't have good positioning with his footwork once he plants his shots down, but I feel like he needs to like set, and he needs to plant before he can throw power shots. And the guy can already exit out the back door before he sits down on his shots, as we've seen in fights where he's been outboxed in quite a bit of fights. Mayweather obviously was back in the day and he was green, but Laura, Golovkin in the second fight, who else? Bivol, Caleb Plant was having success. Billy Joe Saunders is having success. Kovalev. Like, a lot of guys can win rounds against Canelo, because Canelo, I feel like if he doesn't hurt you and he can't land on you, I know you could say that about anybody. If they can't land, they're not going to win rounds. But like with other guys, they have other weapons and they don't have to hurt you to win rounds. It seems like with Canelo, if he doesn't hurt you and he doesn't land big shots on you, he's not winning the round. Whereas other guys can win a round just by landing lighter shots, right? And like jabs and stuff. So I feel like, go back to the point of Oscar De La Hoya first said it. He needs to, it's like he moves in quicksand. His footwork's not good. But he also mentioned that his keys of victory for Charlo. Charlo needs to fight like the way Bivol did. And I totally agree with that. And it's funny how Keith Thurman has just said the exact same thing in a recent interview with Fight Hub. He actually said that he needs to fight like Bivol. And let me explain what he needs to do. You can check out that interview too. It's a good interview. But in my opinion, I've talked about this before, and I'll say it's pretty much what Keith Thurman is saying as well, that he needs to control the distance, Charlo. The jab is going to be extremely important. It always is, but in this fight especially. Keeping Canelo at the end of the jab and keeping the right distance, controlling the distance. But he also needs to press Canelo at times to gain his respect and land his power shots. But you don't want to get complacent and get too power hungry and stand in front of Canelo. You want to do what Bivol did. You keep at a safe distance, and at times when you see that Canelo's frustrated and a bit tired, then you go in and you land a 1-2, a 1-2-3 on him. And Keith Thurman did bring up what Bivol's known to do in not just the Canelo fight. He likes doing the 1-2-1. The jab, the straight right hand, and then a jab, and then he exits, right? Or he'll kind of wait and see what the fighter's doing. So that was such a great combination that worked on Canelo, because for the hook, you have to go 1-2, and then you have to get closer to him to throw the hook. But with the 1-2-1, you can throw it at a distance, and then you can keep at a distance still as you throw that last punch in the combination, and you can keep at a distance. With the hook, you have to get in closer. So I really feel like the reach advantage for Charlo, he should utilize that combination, and hopefully Derrick James is watching that Bivol tape a lot and implementing a game plan. Because that Bivol fight was like, that's the blueprint to beat Canelo. Like, you don't have to be a Triple G in the first fight, just steamroll. Like, what Triple G did in the first fight, you can't expect Charlo to do that, right? You can't expect anybody to do that, to be honest, against Canelo. Triple G was the only one to do that, so that's not really a blueprint. But I feel like with Bivol, I'm not saying Charlo or anybody else can do what Bivol did exactly against Canelo, but it's been, people kind of have done what Bivol did against Canelo in the past. It's not like Bivol did something totally new. He was outboxing Canelo like previous others have done. So the Bivol, though, is the perfect blueprint, I feel like, to beat Canelo, because he's keeping a safe distance, he's controlling the distance with the jab, and he's using straight punch combinations to keep him at the end of the punches. But then when Canelo, it gets frustrated or a little bit complacent and tired, you go in and you sit down on your shots, but you don't stay there because Canelo's still dangerous and you get out. So I feel like Charlo needs to follow the Bivol game plan, like Keith Thurman said, using the 1-2-1. The jab is important. And take advantage of Canelo's slow footwork, like what Oscar said. He's moving like he's in quicksand. As long as you don't stand in front of Canelo and you don't let him sit down on his shots and land on you, you win rounds against Canelo. That's just the way it works. A lot of people have the footwork advantage over Canelo, like the foot speed. They move better. Whereas it looks like Canelo's got weighted legs, like he moves very heavy. So, so I do believe Charlo has a good chance of beating Canelo if he follows the right game plan. But if he tries to get brave and become a hero and maybe gets too, anxious and tries sitting down with Canelo in the pocket, maybe getting a little too complacent, right? And he starts to, like I said, with Bivol, he didn't get too crazy. He would get in there, he would land his power shots when like I said, when Canelo got a little bit frustrated or tired, but he would always get out. He's not like staying in there until I think later in the fight he did stay in the pocket more in close distance to Canelo, but Canelo was very tired at that point and very frustrated. But for the first half of the fight, you cannot get power hungry and try to land huge shots on Canelo at close distance. That Canelo will probably land something on you and hurt you and break your face or something, like he's done to pretty much everyone else that's boxed well against Canelo. Billy Joe, Saunders, Caleb Plant. Those are two very good examples of guys that are doing great. Kovalev, they're doing great. They're boxing well. They're getting their shots off, but they get a little too brave and stay in there too long. So I agree with Keith Thurman and Oscar De La Hoya's assessment here, but it's pretty much my assessment as well. I've been saying it in my previous videos. You got to get Canelo's respect sometimes by sitting down on your shots, but there's times to do it. You don't want to get complacent and do it too much and try to hurt Canelo and knock him out, because you're probably not going to knock out Canelo, let's be honest here, unless he really declines later in his years. He hasn't showed any sign of, he has a Superman chin, like he's got an iron chin. No one's been able, not even Triple G has been able to hurt him really, to drop him or anything. So you got to box him. You got to use the jab, and you have to control the distance. Easier said than done, but I feel like Charlo has the footwork and he has the reach, and he's big enough to implement the Bivol game plan. I do believe that, but obviously I think Bivol is better than Charlo. Let's be honest. Bivol is better than him, but not to say that Charlo can't implement it and do good and maybe win this fight, right? So anyway, guys, this is Triple J Boxing. Let me know what you think about my thoughts on the way I think Charlo can beat him if he follows that game plan I mentioned, and Keith Thurman's and Oscar De La Hoya's thoughts on it as well. And Yeah, thanks for watching. Take care, guys.